What is it that can help people as they're considering that recurring gift decision that you can incentivize to give on a recurring basis?
We know that matches perform better on Giving Tuesday than other times of the year. Incentivizing recurring is going to get you much more value than incentivizing one-time gifts. And we've seen lots of experiments about how well that works for higher lifetime value.
Welcome to the Sustainable Giving Podcast. Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm both excited, perhaps a little nervous, and that is because today we are going live with the Sustainable Giving Podcast. And so as you are watching this live, we have a number of folks on the live stream. In fact, we were talking about earlier, I see folks from Nebraska and Minnesota and Brooklyn and Maryland, and we need some folks from the Pacific Northwest where I'm based, but so glad to be able to do this really as kind of a live studio audience recording today. We're going to be taking some questions from the audience, so make sure as you're listening to today's show that you add those questions in. We are going to be diving into several of those. And really today is all about shining a light on the intersection between what's been happening with sustainable giving and this movement known as Giving Tuesday. I remember the first time I heard about Giving Tuesday, honestly, it was about 12 years ago. And I remember kind of rolling my eyes, to be honest, like, oh, great, a made up holiday, And, but it has been amazing to watch that phenomenon continue to grow to the point that it is been really driving, I think, a new conversation and a new way to think about not just philanthropy for fundraisers, but also generosity for donors. And so today we're going to dive into that. And in fact, to explore that question, I'm joined by my friend and fellow data geek. I hope you're okay with that label, Woodrow.
Well, I'm okay with friend. Well, I'm flattered by friend, deeply offended by geek.
Venn diagram of like geek, dweeb, nerd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Geek is the good one, right?
Geek is the good one. Okay, that's
good
all
one.
right.
That's the deep fascination, but not socially awkward. So
the question is, where does geek overlap with friend of Dave?
To me, they're like one and the same. So I just love it. I love it. In fact, when I wrote down the vision for the podcast, Woodrow, I wrote down Dave geeking out with friends about recurring giving. So, I think it fits. And honestly, you and I have gotten to know each other better over the last just year, really. We've known of each other for years. But you were on season 1 of the podcast. So how does it feel to make it onto season 2?
Well, it feels pretty special. I don't feel like we've had a lot of repeats, so I'm again flattered and live this time. That's exciting.
And live. All right, we got some Virginia people, PA. Come on, we got to move west, everybody. I see some Canada there. That's good. Manitoba,
right in the middle.
All right, I love it. Actually, Woodrow, so I was just reflecting. So we just wrapped season 1 of the podcast. We're into season 2. I shared earlier some of the powerful guests we've had on the show: Lisa Greer, Abby Jarvis, Nathan Chappelle, Dr. Sanjay Bindra. It's been an incredible thing. And I just got the stats back from season 1. Woodrow, can I share some of what we're seeing?
Of course. Love a stat.
Love it. Love a good data point. So in season 1, actually not over, we'll be specific here, 13,788 individual leaders reached.
Good for you.
Which is just so encouraging. More than 80,000 total impressions. 23 countries dialing in over season 1, which is pretty cool. You might not be surprised to see US, UK, and then Canada being the top 3. But 23 total countries. And, when I started the podcast, when I wrote the book, when I really invested in building Imago Consulting, was focused on sustainability and innovation and fundraising. And Woodrow, there's 1.1 million nonprofits. You and I have talked about this in the US today that have been historically left behind when it comes to creating thriving, sustainable giving practices. And so as much as I'm thrilled and I did not know what to expect with, over 13,000 leaders impacted, it's like, 1.09 to go, million to go. So, and thank you for everything you guys have done in the sector to help bring sustainability.
Well, I mean, right back at you. It's this is one of the most important areas for us to not just have a resilient sector, but a thriving one, and there is opportunity for that, but we just need to change our priorities a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So let's start. I want to talk about Giving Tuesday as a phenomenon because I was hinting at it earlier. Giving Tuesday, when I first saw it come on the radar, was like, oh, what is this? Kind of a thing. And it's gone on quite the journey since then. In fact, just a little fun fact, Woodrow, looking at the history of Giving Tuesday dating back, as I understand it, 2012. Is that right?
That's right.
2012, a bold experiment about just, hey, what if we could leverage the energy around Thanksgiving weekend and Black Friday and Cyber Monday to do a Giving Tuesday. And coincidentally, as somebody who's gone way down the rabbit hole in subscriptions, there's indices that I follow called the Subscription Economy Index. You've probably seen it. When they date the first set of data for the Subscription Economy Index.
Is it really 2012?
2012. So literally the rise of now subscriptions have been around for millennia. I've talked about that. Netflix came online in 2006, 2007, but really the subscription economy as we know it today really started to gain ground in 2012. So interesting that we're having a conversation today about the intersection of the two.
For sure. And I think that's not a coincidence in that, not that it was deliberate, but Giving Tuesday was launched at a time when there was a lot of shift in how people were engaging with one another, how commerce was being conducted. A lot of people didn't know what a hashtag was in 2012.
Touche. So let's just paint the picture for Giving Tuesday today. What is the scale and scope of Giving Tuesday? Because it's not just a national thing now. It is a global movement.
It is, and was from year two. And partly because, the Giving Tuesday growth is partly because it's such a simple concept. What if we had a day for giving? And maximally open in terms of what does that mean? And that because it's not owned by anybody and because it's been open source, it started growing immediately, starting with Canada and the UK. Now 111 countries as of about a week ago, with Qatar joining. So that is Antigua to Zambia. So that's the global nature of it. It's a year-round movement for supporting the social sector and civil society and inspiring and enabling generosity around the world, building capacity in the social sector to do that and giving people agency. And then of course the day, which is that intervention, that yearly celebration that is now, it is experienced, expressed, participated in every country of the world. But now 111 countries have official movement leaders who have come on to raise their hands and say they want to steward this in their place.
Well, and Woodrow, you've traveled. I've traveled a fair bit, and generosity, sort of giving culture looks different in a lot of different settings. Sometimes, and you and I've talked about how generosity is not just the monetary giving piece, but when it comes to monetary giving, there's a lot of cultures that's just not a typical phenomenon, either trust issues or just lack of history, right?
Yeah. So it's. There are distinct differences from place to place, and also some really interesting similarities from place to place. So one thing is really clear is that generosity is a fundamental human value, and the vast majority of people are expressing their generosity with action all of the time in lots of ways. Also, everywhere we've looked, everywhere we've measured around the world, people will give money and they'll give things and they'll give their time and they'll be advocates. And and most people are also doing more than one of those things. It's very rare to have anybody have a very kind of specific channel for their generosity. And they're not just giving to nonprofits, they're also giving to individuals, and they're giving through mutual aid networks and community organizers and lots of other mechanisms. What's different is the makeup of that shifts a little bit from place to place. Some places it's more nonprofit focused than others. Some places it's more monetary than others. I mean, in the US, most giving doesn't involve a nonprofit. Most giving is not monetary, but it does skew a little bit more toward nonprofits and a little bit more monetary than some other places. But what's typical is people are very diverse and prolific in their generous behavior.
Yeah. Well, and we're here talking about sustainability as a concept, but also recurring giving and how that's become an increasingly important aspect to those, more than the 1.1 million in the U.S., but to the global charities that are looking to create sustainability. So, how does the rise of sustainable giving intersect with this movement?
So partly, I mean, what we've seen since early on is recurring giving to nonprofits is a bigger part of the Giving Tuesday experience than the rest of the year. And I think part of that is related to just how and when Giving Tuesday has emerged and grown up over the last 13 or so years. To your point, that subscription economy has been growing, and Giving Tuesday is activating online more than other times of the year. It is activating more people more broadly. It's more everyday givers, and it's younger adults in particular, although it's very inspiring to everybody. And all of that makes for a good kind of product market fit for sustainable giving and Giving Tuesday. What we want to do is capitalize on that as much as possible and help organizations understand that this is a great moment. But I think even more important is to understand, what do you learn from that in order to make sustainer giving, recurring giving to your organization a bigger part of your strategy all year round. But we do see that there is more new recurring giving being pledged on Giving Tuesday than other times of the year.
Yeah. Well, and the data that recently came out from a couple of years of analysis was looking at the spread of people committing to either single gifts or recurring gifts, in this case, recurring gifts, in the month that Giving Tuesday takes place, because sometimes it's in November. This year it's December 2nd. The data that I saw was that 12% of all recurring transactions were started on the day of Giving Tuesday.
Yes, that's Neon One's excellent recurring report. I mean, what the other really interesting takeaway from that report for me was how 80% of new recurring givers on Giving Tuesday gave a single gift again before the end of the year. So this idea that it's either or is really mistaken. The idea that you have to kind of start somebody on a one-time gift and then convert them, and that once somebody's a recurring giver, you leave them alone, is just wrong. There's a lot more opportunity there.
Yeah. Clip that, as they say. I mean, the average donor that I see, recurring donor, gives 25% in addition to their whatever their annual recurring giving is. And so I remember early in direct marketing fundraising learning that if you ask for a second gift before year end, you might actually get it. And it was like, wow, that's amazing. Turns out recurring giving, A, has a second gift built in, and then B, as you saw in that data, people are generous. They will give that year-end additional single gift. That's powerful.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to go to an audience question. Make sure, by the way, for those of you on the stream, you're asking those questions in the chat. We've got some that we were submitted beforehand as well that we're able to draw on. So let's go to that first audience question and dive into that. All right, so how early? Oh, this is a good one. How early is too early to start promoting Giving Tuesday? We want to focus on recurring giving. Woodrow, you want to take a crack?
I mean, that's a really interesting question, because I to a degree, we don't know the answer to that, in that as the day starts to spread out more and more every year, we see that there's more opportunity to start talking about it earlier. There was some really interesting research done out of Texas A&M that experimented with not recurring, but with matching gifts. And going out to a donor list with an ask and a match in advance of Giving Tuesday. And the treatments had, we're asking for a donation today and it's matched, and we're going to have another match on Giving Tuesday. So telling people in advance. And what they found was the best return on investment was 5 weeks out.
Wow.
And I think they tried 11, 8, 5, and 3, something like that. And so that was it. That was interesting. And there does seem to be something going on about a month before Giving Tuesday, things really start to ramp up. But of course, the behavior of fundraisers is muddying the waters there in terms of, what's the actual effect. But certainly at least a month in advance is not too early.
Yeah. Well, and the way I just go to, let's look at what's happening in consumer. I mean, Giving Tuesday was founded related to a consumer holiday called Black Friday and Cyber Monday and Small Business, whatever Saturday.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I as we're recording this live stream, it's October 27th, so we're the end of October. And I was looking to see, okay, have the Black Friday deals started yet? Not quite, but most assumptions are they're going to start here in the next few days. And so when we look at what's been happening in the consumer side, it's about getting ahead of the crowd and at least planting the seed. That's the way I think about it. Is, by the way, you can make a Giving Tuesday gift. Don't tell anybody, but you can make it before Giving Tuesday.
Yeah, I think
give to that campaign.
We have this opportunity also, because unlike the commercial sector, because that does tell us a lot about how we can engage, which is useful, and how often and how far in advance. But also we have this opportunity with Giving Tuesday to talk about what we're going to be doing together and getting excited about it. It's a celebratory moment of collective action.
Community moment.
And talking about that earlier is great. And also remembering that people want to hear from you more, not less. They just don't want it always to be the same old solicitation. So absolutely give people an opportunity to give, but think about multiple ways that they can give, all the ways that they can get involved, including being advocates for your organization. And the more variety in your message, the easier it is to ramp up that frequency and get out there earlier. You're not always just the same message over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Okay. So we've talked about obviously Giving Tuesday as a movement, really a global movement today. It's a day of action. We've talked about how sustainable giving and the movement are inextricably linked. So let's talk about what people can do. So I've recently put out a piece on the Wave Report talking about what are some very concrete things that leaders can do. And so I'm going to share 4 of these, and we'll bring them up on screen as I share. But Woodrow, I would love for you to color commentate, add to, as we go through here. So the first one, to perhaps no one's surprise, given that first question, is start early, stay late. And again, I think there's a lot we can learn from the world of consumer goods, consumer marketing, to say, hey, there is something powerful about a point in time, a deadline, a sale weekend, Black Friday, right? We just as humans tend to respond to those powerful points in time. But that is sort of the blessing and the curse, because then as people, more and more people respond to those points in time, that grows, but also so does the noise, so does everything else that's going on. And so I still remember my first clients 21 years ago, Woodrow, being like, what if we dropped the direct mail a week earlier than we did last year? And every year we would just test a week earlier, and then we would test a week earlier. And I don't even remember where we lost count, but it was just always like earlier was better. And so a couple principles I want leaders to think about. There is a priming thing that you're doing here. You're creating anticipation, and you can invite action earlier on. And honestly, some people will give before that day. I'm the sucker who forgets to give on the day, or like I miss the sale by one day, which we'll talk about stay late in a second. But prime people get there's anticipation to be built, but there's also candidly people that will just give right away.
100%. I think you've really identified that, like building anticipation and thinking about the fact, what you need to balance here is, we know that the single biggest driver of donation intent is urgency. And that's one of the reasons why Giving Tuesday works so well, and why you don't have to worry about the noise. The noise is helping your organization. It's why smaller organizations do better on Giving Tuesday. it's an opportunity because there's this heightened desire to be part of the fun. You have to balance that with, I'm going to be talking about earlier and talking about it later. So then how do you leverage that urgency? By building anticipation and then talking about what was achieved and keeping the door open for everybody. But keeping the door open needs to be different than not giving someone a reason to act. Every engagement, we know we need multiple touch points. And I think that people often forget that. They send out a message, they get 20% response rate, and they think, well, I asked all those people. But we need to give people a reason to act now. And you need to remember that they're not thinking about you after that. You have to come back again and again and again to maintain that relevance and awareness so you can keep providing those opportunities, but they need to be new reasons why you should act now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then that, just to finish out that point, that's why stay late is important as well. Because number one, there are slackers like me who are, turns out that's a work day. And even though I work in this industry, I'm usually getting to the end of the day and I'm exhausted and who knows what. But some people will legitimately just quote unquote miss the deadline. But it's also an opportunity to simultaneously then celebrate after the deadline. So whether that's a Wednesday or a Thursday, celebrate what has happened and the impact and the collective whole, but also say it's not too late, and that could be, it's the classic, in marketing, you'd extend the sale by 24 more hours or whatever. If you had a match, which we'll talk about incentives in a minute, maybe you do, an extension or something like that. But it's just recognizing that some people are not going to act on the day, and that's not because of you or them. It's just like called life and email and promotions filters and all the things, right? And so that's the first one. Let's move to the second insight, and that is to lead with recurring. So this is going to require some bravery, but you and I were just talking offline, and I'd love for you to share, what are you seeing, at least anecdotally, with organizations around leading with a recurring ask during Giving Tuesday?
So, first of all, overall, I think that we need to see that strategy more often, that there's more opportunity for that strategy. The fact that that's the norm, where cost of acquisition is highest in door-to-door, should be really instructive about when it's lowest online.
Recurring giving, you're saying recurring giving is the normal
Recurring
ask,
is the only ask,
the most expensive
door-to-door.
fundraising channels. Yeah.
Because it's so expensive. So you need a high ROI to make it worthwhile. Well, the ROI should be even higher when you're talking about digital channels. I think one of the reasons why we see such high new recurring rates on Giving Tuesday is that organizations are like the 80-ish% of organizations who say they use Giving Tuesday to try something new. It's like this permission to try something. And so there's a lot more trial of the recurring first engagement. What's important to understand is that this is not the fact that we have a kind of annual giving, one-time gift structure is not a function of the donor. It's a function of the fundraising system. In Spain, it's exactly the opposite. Almost every gift is recurring. And when I talk to organizations in Spain, they talk about what a challenge it is when you've built a system around recurring to get people to give a one-time gift. Not because people won't, but because they've constructed a system that isn't designed for that. So we can make recurring the default more often, and the key thing is to experiment, test message, see what's going to work with your constituents, but try it. And Giving Tuesday is a good opportunity to try it.
Yeah, well said. Well, and that annual fund mindset is really the air we breathe here in North America, especially in the US. I think Canada is a little bit further ahead on regular recurring giving, but it's the air we breathe, it's the water we swim in, and we don't even realize, to your point, the structures that we've created that are not just donor generosity driven, but they're actually driven by the way in which we treat donors.
Yeah.
The number of organizations I've had that are like, hey, it's the fourth quarter, we can't ask for recurring. I'm like, it's the fourth quarter, let's ask for recurring. Yes. Like the average, I've got a organization I'm presenting some findings to. Their average long-term value for their recurring donors is estimated at about $1,740. versus call it $300 for
Right.
a single gift donor. And I'm like, let's get more of those. Now,
Well, and to your point,
yeah,
this is about a metric, right? Like we need our organizations thinking much more about the lifetime value of donor as opposed to what is the average value of a gift.
mhm,
That would help us to start prioritizing recurring.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We see that
So,
about 2% overall, 2% of new gifts are recurring, but some organizations are doing much, much better than that. And it's because they've made it a priority strategy. And that, we think adding 5% to that to get to 7 or even to 12% should be very doable if we as an industry made this a higher priority and the default ask more often. That would generate between 10 and $20 billion more a year the first year it's achieved. The higher retention rate means that you then start getting exponential returns on that.
yeah, I remember when I saw that data that you had put out was one, it made my data look conservative. I was like, wait, I had done like 5% of the 75% of charities that have been left behind and came to like about 11 billion a year, which still pretty good. One of the things that really stood out to me in season one was we had providers step up and say, you know what, sustainable giving is important to us. We want to help. Like, how can we help? And one of the first organizations that reached out, candidly, before the book came out, that was already on the train of what's been happening with sustainable giving is Charity Engine. And Charity Engine has generously agreed to partner to actually make today's live stream possible. And so I'm going to bring Dave Martin, Vice President at Charity Engine, on stage. Hey, Dave. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having us on board. It's fantastic.
Why is sustainable giving such a priority for Charity Engine?
Yeah, it's a huge priority for us. When you look at it and we see with our customer base, the most successful nonprofits have strong monthly giving programs. It's clear. We see it over and over again. They strategically view recurring giving. They prioritize it. They see it as like an annuity, right? Then on the other side, you see all these cuts and grants and the volatility in our space. And it just goes to reinforce that recurring donors and sustainable giving can be the heartbeat of stability.
Appreciate you. Thank you guys for making this possible.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
If you haven't listened to it, season one, the episode with Sophia Machado Lemus from Operation Smile, and she's talked about their journey of going to a sustainer first mindset and also some pitfalls along the way. Like, turns out for them, the last 2 weeks of the year, they really should have offered some, single gift options. But by and large, that multi-year journey that has led to now more than, I believe it was more than 30% of revenue coming in from recurring, which again, in a North American, particularly US construct, is huge.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move to the third insight, and that is to incentivize conversion. What do I mean? And again, I'm not trying to turn us into consumer marketers, although obviously we can learn. But is not only is the day important, but also recurring giving is a more significant commitment. There's no way around that. Like that is you. There is that feeling of like, am I ready for this? Am I ready for this commitment? So you do have the advantage of the peak in interest on the day. You've got the community movement. Other people are acting. But I find that if you can incentivize conversion, that's not going to sell people, quote unquote, on recurring giving, but that can help people push them over the edge to make that commitment. And so, two easy button examples. We've talked about one already, and that is a match. Matching is an effective strategy in fundraising, and that is a donor has agreed to match your first recurring gift or your first 3 recurring gifts. I try to keep it simple, by the way, because it can sound really convoluted, like I'm matching every third what. So a match. And another easy strategy is if you do provide resources or you have something of value that you can offer in exchange. If you're, well, I've talked about this, a local zoo or museum or arts institution, you have things of value that you can offer. If you are a charity that publishes resources and provides education, you have things of value you can offer. I have one charity that I work with that works with groups that are basically left behind of the traditional relief efforts in East Africa. And they also do micro entrepreneurship. And so they can actually provide like literal goods or services from the people that they're working with to empower, right? So what is it that can help people as they're considering that recurring gift decision that you can incentivize can help push them over the edge to make that decision to give on a recurring basis?
Yeah, that's great advice. And we know that matches perform better on Giving Tuesday than other times of the year. It's a great opportunity to think about how you can get more leverage out of that match. Incentivizing recurring is going to get you much more value than incentivizing one-time gifts. And we've seen lots of experiments about how well that works for higher lifetime value.
Yeah. In fact, I had a client just this last month on another giving day that was a local regional giving day. I was telling you about this, Woodrow, who the giving day by definition is an annual fund giving day because you have to give through the giving day website and then it gets matched and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. And that's been great generosity. But again, kind of subtly perpetuating this idea of a gift is a single one. And so this organization decided to add in addition to, hey, if you give through this Giving Day website, your gift will be matched. If you choose to become a recurring donor, your first gift will be tripled. And so we just laddered up that incentive for gifts to triple. This organization, very small organization, doubled their recurring giving program through that ask.
Yeah.
And, if they were bigger, it would have been a, 50% increase or a 20% increase, whatever. But the point was by incentivizing that additional action, people actually did it, which is great.
Yeah. Well, and your matching donor gets more value too, because you get so much better ROI in terms of the number of people. Even if you're making a double, triple match, the price tag, which is one of the reasons why recurring is so popular, particularly with younger people who have less disposable income but are more motivated to give. You're helping them give more by doing it over time. It also means that those donors who are making a match are going to touch more people and have more reach for their effort.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's about multiplying effort and taking things further. Okay, so the last thing that I wrote down as I was thinking about taking advantage of Giving Tuesday and sustainable giving is to leverage multiple channels. It's pretty funny to me, having started in the industry sort of kind of pre-digital, so to speak. Digital existed, but it was not really much of a fundraising thing when I started. In fact, Woodrow, my first day on the job, I was working at this agency and I thought, I'm going to be in marketing and agency. I'm going to do Super Bowl spots. And I don't know what I was thinking. And the lead project manager, I was a project manager, brought these binders and set them on my desk. And I didn't know they had 6 and 9 inch binder rings. I was like, what are these binders? And I was flipping through and it's all direct mail samples. And I just had graduated with a degree in marketing and web and information technology. And I was going to go into advertising, working with, nonprofits. And I was like, nobody taught me about direct mail. I will say, having cut my teeth on direct mail was hugely beneficial as we moved into a digital fundraising environment. But the reality is we live in a digital fundraising environment. I don't know what percentage, but some very high percentage of Giving Tuesday campaigns are email only. They send an email, and maybe even they only send an email on Giving Tuesday. So you've learned in lesson 1, you need to send multiple emails and you need to start early and you need to stay late. But I would also encourage you to think about what other channels you can incorporate. Social media is an obvious one. Mobile, if you're doing mobile messaging, every organization, candidly, that I'm working with right now that has mobile capability is seeing recurring giving as a tremendous bright spot. In fact, Sophia Machado Lemus on the Operation Smile episode shared that they're seeing more, and I still have to listen back to this because I'm it's hard to believe, but they're seeing more people sign up for recurring giving through mobile than through email. And I was just like, what, say that again? Is that right? And so if you can be doing mobile messaging or are leveraging mobile, that's a tremendous channel. Phone, turns out people still respond to phone-based fundraising. Like, so if you're thinking about cutting through the noise of that email inbox, think about what other channels that you can be communicating in with regards to Giving Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, multi-channel is just so important. We need to be doing more of that all year round. One of the things that's interesting is we looked at community campaigns and found that the single biggest indicator of success was that they set a measurable goal for their campaign. Like that was the most important factor in having a successful campaign, was just setting some
So the
very
goal.
specific. And one of the reasons for that is that it makes you start thinking about what are the components of how I'm going to get there and how am I going to know if I got there. And that really does help you to think about who's the audience, where do I find them, what's the message for this constituent, and what do I want, what do I need to get from them for success. And that lends itself toward a multi-channel approach.
I love that. That's so good. Okay, so let's move to another audience question. And again, if you're in the chat, make sure you're asking questions. We'll try to get to as many as possible, but let's just go to our next audience question and see what we've got here. Okay, so we've tried to promote monthly giving before, but it never took off. Any advice to make it stick this year? And I think we could take this one either way, Woodrow, whether it's outside of Giving Tuesday or with Giving Tuesday. What would you say?
So, I mean, it's so hard. Whenever I get a question like this, I think, well, I need to look at your campaign. But what I will, I mean, there are some things we know don't work well. And similarly, you know, on Giving Tuesday, we see folks who their message on Giving Tuesday is give to me because it's Giving Tuesday. That's not a reason for anyone to support your organization. It's an amplifier. It's priming people. They want to be part of the fund. They're giving to multiple organizations, but that's not the reason they're going to donate to you. And I do see some folks who think that the way, I mean, I got a call from an organization I support that asked me if I would convert my gift to a recurring gift, because it would reduce their cost of fundraising. And now that's I think, a particularly egregious approach. This is not why I'm giving to that organization. That's not a driver of my intention. And it doesn't tell me anything about my impact or what I'm accomplishing or how I'm partnering with them. And I think that we have to remember it being a recurring gift or even sustaining the organization financially. These are not reasons for people to give to you. They're giving to you because of your mission, because you're leveraging urgency and a personal emotional connection and reason for them to support you. And the opportunity you're giving them is to do so on an ongoing basis to ensure that your mission delivers on that promise. But that's not the promise. You need to make a promise.
Yeah, so good. I would say two things, and this is just kind of plussing up what you just said, Woodrow, and that is you need to have an ongoing value proposition. And that's just another way of saying it's not just a handout. I can speak to some universities that are like, just you know, you're like, it's an email that just says, hey, would you give to us monthly? Because would you give to us monthly was basically the like, no. So what is the ongoing impact that my gift is going to make?
You're asking for a subscriber, right? So what does a subscriber get? They need to get, and it can be something tangible, but I think more importantly and probably better is they're subscribing to feeling impactful, feeling good about themselves and their shared mission on a monthly basis. So that's what you're selling.
Yeah. And that's what gets you that second gift and third gift and so on and so forth. So what is the ongoing impact? And then the other thing I would say is recurring giving goes beyond a checkbox. And I think a lot of organizations say we launched a recurring giving program, and maybe they did, and maybe they had a landing page somewhere, but oftentimes what they mean was we added a checkbox,
added the option
arrow pointing to the monthly button and said, would you click this one instead? And I'm not knocking the arrows. I've tested those before. But that is not an ongoing value proposition. That is not a justification for giving on a recurring basis. So I would just take a look at that. I've also seen organizations that quote unquote launched a program, including one I was just reviewing this morning, and you literally cannot find it. Like you have to know what it's called and you have to like deep link into it. Like it's just not it's buried in a third tertiary menu on the website, or they don't actually talk about it to their constituents. And so there's a lot of reasons, to your point, Woodrow. It's hard to answer that question for any one person. But it doesn't dissuade me. It doesn't slow down my enthusiasm for the possibility.
And again, door to door is really instructive. Here's our mission. This is why this organization is worthy of your support. This is the connection we see to whatever the value is. And what we're asking for is a recurring gift. It's just that is the support we're asking for.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so one of the things actually we just did this last month, and I want to make sure people are aware of it, because we hosted the first sustainable giving workshop in beautiful Seattle. I'm looking at it right now. It's nice and sunny today. And we had 20 organizations, 24 leaders show up and spend 2.5 days investing in themselves to grow sustainable giving and to get into those. What is our ongoing value proposition? We had an entire session, by the way, Woodrow, you would appreciate that, where we actually leveraged AI to help
Nice.
leaders develop an ongoing value proposition and then work on it with each other. So 2.5 days, and it went so well. The feedback was so positive. In fact, we measured confidence level, because that was the one thing early on, Woodrow, was like, how confident are we that we know what next steps we need to take? So we measured that coming in and out of the workshop. We had a 58% increase in confidence level. And so I think we're on the right track. So much so that we've actually already announced our next Sustainable Giving workshop dates. Those are January 28th through the 30th. So if you are listening to this podcast, come hang out with me in Seattle. We'll spend a couple of days. We'll have quite a bit of fun too. We definitely it's not just a classroom setting, but if you want to scale your recurring giving program, especially, and you are looking to drive that next stage of growth, this is not just for beginners. This is for organizations and leaders who have a sense, they have a program, or maybe they have that checkbox and have a decent number of recurring givers, but they want to scale that. Definitely come and hang out with me. In fact, don't take my word for it. We just got back a video from the team of the workshop. So let's play that now. Woodrow, we got to get you out to one of these.
I would totally come. You guys had so much fun. Well, it's evidenced by the video.
Well, and we do it just outside of Seattle, Washington, a town called Tacoma. Most people have heard of it because it's in the airport name, Seattle Tacoma. Everyone's like, "What's Tacoma?" And it's like, it's this really cool, like, post-industrial, going through its own Renaissance art community. Urban, but I would call it more semi-urban, kind of a thing. And just a cool vibe. Lots of glass blowing, and just street art and all that kind of stuff. So we hang out for 2.5 days. If you're interested, definitely go ahead and get registered. If you're listening to the live stream, or you're listening to this in the week the podcast comes out, our best discount for the workshop does expire on Friday, October 31st. So that is this week as we record this. Apologies if you listen to this in the future. There will be one other smaller discount until that expires later this year. So definitely come and join us if you can. And I would just want to close out our time, Woodrow, with asking you this question. Like, I've been thinking about how can leaders leverage moments like Giving Tuesday. Obviously, we are now about 5 weeks away from Giving Tuesday, so that's present. But how can leaders best leverage moments like this to build lasting generosity?
You said bravery earlier, and I think we can stand to be a little more brave. Fortune favors the brave. moments like Giving Tuesday and Giving Tuesday in particular give us a lot of permission to set the ambitious goal and to try something new and to bring our supporters along. So I think that's the most important thing, is just to have that opportunity to put the fear aside and try something you haven't done and lean into it and see how it goes. So that's probably that. And I think for a lot of folks, that's great. So sustainer giving, that's an opportunity to try that. It can be a lot of other things as well. But I think that in terms of what this moment provides, it's that. And that's what's been driving this. This is the single biggest day of the year for donor acquisition, because we've got that 80% of organizations just not running the usual playbook.
Yeah. $6 billion in US alone in 2024. Interesting to see. What about the day? That part.
So I suspect that Dave's audio is breaking up for other folks as well, but it sounded like I was getting asked about the scale of last year in the US. 36 million people participated, donated $3.6 billion in 24 hours. And so many other acts of generosity, so many other ways that people got involved. Most people who participated doing more than one thing. The vast majority of financial donors also taking some other action. So that's the experience that we collectively as an industry, as a sector, are opening for people. And when we think about it as an opportunity for people to be in on the fun, that's when we get the best result.
So good. So good. All right. As we finish out our time, I want to make one other announcement. And one of the things that I've been thinking about as people have been responding to what's been happening with recurring giving this season and this year, candidly, is if we're able to accomplish the task of reaching those, in my case, 1.1 million nonprofits that I keep talking about, and that's US alone, that have been left behind. But if I'm able to reach those leaders, we're 13,788 on the way there, right? If we're able to reach those leaders, but we're not able, but their basically technology that they use, their service providers that they're working with are not bringing best in class recurring giving practices, then I will have won the hearts and minds of leaders everywhere, but failed to accomplish the mission, because we all know, and I've served in that space, serving charities, that we've got to bring those best practices. So as we finish our time out today, I just want to share, we have just are on the cusp of putting out something that I think will help create sustainability in the providers that are equipping charities. And so if you'll just permit me, one of the things that we think about is that not only is recurring giving this kind of unstoppable wave, but the reality is, if we just reach the charities that are doing the hard work, but we don't impact the technology providers or the service providers that are creating that change, or let me say, enabling that change through their tech and through their service, then the mission falls. And so what we've been working on is a sustainable giving certification. Now, to be clear, because lots of people have asked me this, ooh, can I take the certification as an individual? Maybe in the future, but right now we are focused on how do we create mission aligned excellence in the vendor space, for lack of a better term, looking at those technology and service providers, and how can we help move the sector forward by making sure that we are shining a light on those providers that are bringing those best in class practices. And what we've done is we've actually created a completely independently certified certification process. And I have removed myself even from that process, because obviously I've written the book, I've invested heavily. The core work that we've done and researched is in the certification, but I want this to be completely above board, completely independently verified. And so think kind of more like a HubSpot certification or a Google certification. But we are actually independently having that administered and working with providers to identify that. So if you're a provider and you're listening to this, let's make sure we talk about how we can take a look. But this is not a rubber stamp. This is a multi-stage certification process. And so that nonprofit leaders can trust that if you're sustainable giving certified, you are bringing that expertise and that capability. And I'm actually happy to announce we've got a half a dozen organizations right now in the process. The first CRM provider and donation provider that has gone through that process is Charity Engine. And we had Dave on early in the stream, Dave Martin, Vice President at Charity Engine, talking about why sustainable giving is so important to them. Their specific technology, Sustainer IQ, that helps with payment recovery. And so as Charity Engine was one of the earliest organizations that reached out, certainly that gave me a signal that they would be invested in what's happening with sustainable giving. But it wasn't until we had our third party provider actually look under the hood, kick the tires, ask about segmentation, move through all of that before I could stand up here and say they are a certified partner actually providing sustainable giving. And so thank you to Dave and to Julie and the entire team at Charity Engine, not only for going through this process, but candidly for already pushing hard to create subscription ready practices in this sector. And so I would be remiss if I didn't highlight that. And they did put together, actually, the folks at Charity Engine put together a guide called Sticky Sustainers, and we'll drop that in the chat as well as in the show notes. And so you can get access to that guide when you are interested in looking at growing sustainable giving. And so go ahead and take a look at that. And I think that does it for our time today. Woodrow, thank you so much for being on the show. Season 2, man. I don't know. We can make it to season 3.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, at this rate, I'm sure you will. And I'd love to be back. I love chatting with you, Dave. It's always interesting and fun. And have a great Giving Tuesday.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for our listeners. Thanks to the production team. It takes an entire village to pull this kind of thing off. So not just Abigail, our executive producer, but Kirsten, Tom, Victoria, the team behind this stream that made this happen. And for everybody who listened live as well as listen on an ongoing basis, appreciate you. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Sustainable Giving Podcast. I hope you found the information helpful and that you're able to walk away with some powerful tools that you can use to start building a steady stream of recurring revenue for your organization. For more information about the topic and to take the Sustainable Giving self-assessment, visit us online at sustainablegiving.org. While you're there, you can pick up your copy of The Rise of Sustainable Giving, your guide to growing recurring giving. And hey, would you do me a favor? If a person comes to mind that you think would benefit from this episode, would you mind sharing this episode with them? Just that little act could be the difference that they need to start growing sustainable giving for their own organization. And there's one other thing that you can do that would be a huge blessing to me. I've timed it and it takes just 16 seconds. Would you consider rating the show? Just head to the show page on the app of your choice, and if you've enjoyed this show, hit the 5-star review. Bonus, if you want to leave a comment, I would love to hear what you think. Special thanks to the entire team at Imago Productions for bringing this show to life. Abigail, Christine, Grace, Kirsten, and Tom, this would not be possible without you. Until next time, thank you for joining us, and keep inspiring generosity.